Nigel, thanks for joining me for a chat this morning. Nigel Thomas, you're the CEO of the Blue Mountain Group, and your business is involved in security, risk, safety around the world. Tell us a little bit more about your services, what you do.
Well, established in 1999 after a career in the military. So from the security, if you like, or the consultancy side of the company, we provide skilled manpower to a number of different business organizations, if you like. So oil and gas, minerals, high net worth families as well. So creating a lifestyle check, if you like, on those families. And certainly these days with social media, teenagers being out on social media. So just trying to protect the whole family as a whole. And very similar with the companies that we work with. So training, we provide a lot of training under the Blue Mountain Training Company, and we do hostile environment training for overseas NGOs, charities, journalists, media, and also banking organizations as well, and some organizations that we had close links with when we were in the military. And everything we do, we try and with the word innovation, I suppose, where we try and these days include the technical area into the consultancy, security, into the training, where it all overlaps, and constantly trying to improve all our processes, all our systems, so that the foundation is as strong as possible, as we grow and grow.
So, I mean, up until this year, you've had people all over the world. You've had freedom of travel. You've been able to work with companies that are global organizations with staff traveling around the world, training here, there, and everywhere. And then, boom! This year, we've had the coronavirus. We've had lockdowns. We've had restrictions on travel. So, how's this affected your business?
It has on the training business. It's been pretty much non-stop, as in no training whatsoever, because all of our training is practical. So since lockdown, we've utilised the time the best that we can with the instructors. So upgrading all our booklets, all our presentations. We've been looking at e-learning for our industry, and there's loads out there. Does it do what we want it to do? No, it doesn't. So we're still looking, and we're still trying to develop something ourselves on that e-learning. But it's had total lockdown. So many of our clients are not traveling, the vast majority. We have 2 clients that work for the military. So we have managed to run courses for them last week, because it looks like they're now going to start traveling. Engineers and what have you that service telecommunications on board ships and what have you. So now the location that we normally use for the training up near London, which is a hotel mansion complex, but their policy is that they're not returning to business until September. So we've had to source other locations they've been open throughout the lockdown for key workers, NHS, police, fire brigade, etc. So their COVID policies have been robust, and it's allowed us then to start to run courses again. So it's had a big knock-on effect on the training side of the company.
Have you had staff stranded overseas, that kind of thing?
as stranded, they've been in lockdown. Yes, they have, and some. Most of the staff are on a sort of 28-day rotation, but some of the guys have been doing over 140 days in one hit because there's no flights into the country, no flights out, and depending on what countries they're in, depends on the quarantine. And the World Health Organization, which tends to be in many of the countries that we operate in, have one policy. The companies that we're actually working with have their own policy, and then the government of that country will also have their own policy. So it's sort of, it's kind of going, which one do we stick with? Trying to adhere to the government, one of the country, the World Health Organization sort of a guidance and advice, but then the company then operating in that country, they tend to go above and beyond what the guidance are, because they need to try and continue to work.
So one of your big challenges is juggling all of the different requirements and guidance of all of these different authorities around the world. And the other challenge is that it's constantly changing.
Absolutely, and it's we've for example, one of the guys, he's done 130 odd days in one of the countries, and he's been in quarantine 4 times so far because he's had to move from one site to another, and the company policy in that country has been, right, if you move, you will go into 12 days quarantine. So, and he's stuck in a hotel room, and that's it for 12 days. Room service to bring the food, but that's it. He's able to work from a laptop if his role, is more on the paperwork side of things. So, but constantly changing. Flights have been booked, and then because that flight is coming from a different country, and certainly in Africa, if it's coming from South Africa, then the South Africans go into lockdown, then it's difficult then to get a flight into, because that is the only transit location. So we've been trying to get guys, from South Africa to Qatar, then to Dubai, then back to the UK. But then it changes in every country again. So the logistics of it have been difficult. And then what you have then in country, in some countries, you're not allowed to be there more than 181 days, or 181.5 days or something, because of tax purposes. And of course, guys are exceeding that in a 12-month period. So then,
how are you looking after the mental and social health of the people that are like that? If they've got families, friends at home that they can't be in touch with, they're in a hotel room for endless or unending periods of time, it seems.
Yeah, it's keeping in touch with the guys, and they're all former military people, so they've been used to being away for long periods of time without communication, back home. The great things working commercially is that you can use the Zoom, telephone calls, and although in many of the countries, the signal tends to drop out, and so you could go for a few days where you have no communication at all. But they have the email and the WhatsApp and what have you these days. So from that side, we've had some of the guys that have had to stay in country this year when close relatives have passed away, and they haven't been able to leave the country to come back for the funeral. So that's been difficult for anybody, I think, with loved ones passing away in the UK, where you've only been allowed to have 5 or 8 or people at the funeral itself, and it's keeping in touch with the guys, having a bit of fun. So and making sure that people are, and if they need something doing back here, and if their families are in need of anything, then they know that there's only a phone call to us, and we'll do the best that we possibly can. Yeah.
Yeah, great stuff. So, I mean, starting today, you're looking forward, Nige. I mean, we don't know how long this is going to be around. What we do know is that situation is going to keep changing until there's a universal vaccine that people actually use and works and nails this thing. So there's going to be a lot of instability, a lot of things to deal with, but opportunities. There are going to be periods where lockdown is eased, where things can happen, people can travel. What's your thinking about how to keep your business surviving and even thriving going forward?
And you can never, it's over the lockdown, and it's been great for myself. It's the least I've travelled since 1985. So from that angle, it's been good. But also when you're running a business and it's pretty full on every day, you don't get much of an opportunity to look inwards and have a look at the foundation and what's in place and what other tools are out there at the moment to enhance that foundation, whether it's technology or somebody has a different system where you can learn and simplify that. So bringing that foundation really back in this over this lockdown, and actually making a decision on right, that area of the business, I don't think there's too much of a future for that. Yes, it'll make a little bit of money, but is our time and effort better spent? Business development and maintaining contact with all our clients, and virtually all aren't traveling at the moment, so which is great. So finding out what they're up to and what their plans are, and then trying to align ourselves that as soon as this lockdown is lifted globally, that we're in the right position to support them, because there's going to be an influx of people wanting training. And so making sure that we're online there, making sure that we're providing the best service that we can for them, but in a cost-effective way, because people are going, companies are struggling, and every company, and even for ourselves, we've looked internally and how can we do this differently? Do we actually need all that manpower? And so aligning ourselves then with some of the big clients that we do have, and finding out how can we support you, that when we get that green light, that we have the systems, the processes in place to support them best that we can. So looking at that and looking at the countries that clients have the local population working for them in those countries, understanding those better. So when the lockdown is lifted, then some of our people will be traveling to these countries. So being able to put the processes and understanding the clients a lot better. Then, so we've been spending a lot of our time behind the scenes. Not so much, I wouldn't say, panicking, and, because it will move on at some point, and whether that's this year. Some of the clients, they say we're not moving until January 21. Others are saying we're not moving until July 21. So what, we're looking at, the avenues, the opportunities that we have with those clients, and actually building better relationships, because we're having time to communicate to them. So yeah, there's lots of areas that now that you've posed that question, I suppose there's lots going through my head and what we've actually achieved over the last few months.
Yeah, a lot of groundwork going on there. Obviously, a lot that's about survival for your own company, but obviously, thinking ahead, change conditions. And I mean, something that occurred to me is, if your focus is on your expertise is on security, helping people to stay safe. Well, there's a whole new threat in terms of safety with this invisible virus that could be floating around. And, is there an opportunity for developing particular, cutting edge expertise in advising people in staying safe in these situations?
I think so. There's a lot of confusion, and we all look at it differently. If we, if you go into a shopping centre now, go into one of the big supermarkets. Some people are wearing masks. Certainly here in Wales, some people are wearing masks. Some people are keeping the social distancing. Other people, they don't mind, sort of brushing shoulders going down an aisle. And then you see it there in the public space, and you have it in the business space as well. And part of I'm part of a business group, and we have a conference call most weeks. Out of the sort of 12, 14 MDs, CEOs that are in the group, every business, their risk assessment is slightly different. Okay, their workspace is different, but their appetite for risk as well is different as an MD or a CEO. So having that, that you can have that generic advice, I think. Then it needs to be adapted then for that environment. And it's like any risk assessment. It's as long as you complete that risk assessment and you factor in what's relevant to your business or to your life, and then you can operate. Use that then to the best advantage to continue to operate, rather than being frightened of it and going into total shutdown. So it's having that mindset that have the proper risk assessment, you have the PPE in place, but also trying to keep up to date with any government guidelines. So if you're going down the compliance, down the legality end of it, you're working towards government guidelines. You have your risk assessment for your own business in place, and it's in the culture, so people understand it. So if they come into a place of work, they know that they've been looked after to the best of the ability of that company.
Yeah, it's not just companies that have different levels of aversion to risk. I mean, every employee in the company is probably the same. Some people, without being ageist, younger people tend to think, sorry, if I get it, it's not going to mean much, and they're pretty casual about it. Other people are ultra cautious, and that's going to affect the companies that you're advising and working with as well, isn't it? Just the mindset, the attitude, the working culture that's in each of those organizations.
Very much so, very much so. You're working in parts of Africa where you have you're working in close proximity with the local nationals, and in parts of the countries, education is not as it is here in the UK. So and for a lot of them, they probably haven't heard of the coronavirus. So you're trying to implement your Western ways, if you like, when it comes to hygiene, social distancing, etc. But then these people are going home and living in small houses where it's nigh on impossible, and then working then with some of the NGOs who are a lot more touchy-feely, if you like, in their approach, and it's all about looking after each other. So there's a whole host of different people, and the course that we just ran last week, it's social distancing on it, and the PPE, the hotel had their own risk assessment, we had ours, but each individual on that course, they perceive the threat, if you like, in a very different way. and as we do as human beings, each one of us is unique. And then, and trying to keep everyone happy all the time doesn't,
No, that never works.
So it's having that adaptability as well, and that's why I go back to the government guidelines, what they stipulate, but also going above and beyond that.
So it seems like a good moment to ask you. I know that one of the things that you're trying to do, or you're investigating to take your thinking forward, and maybe to help your client companies. Looking at a platform called Mobcast, which has been designed to help a range of HR issues, but also to help companies to plan, I guess, the return of, getting back to work in the COVID-19 era. Now, you've had a look at it. It's early days. You're going to be having a closer look in the future. But what's your first impression? Why did you think it's worth looking at a bit more closely?
Well, technology these days, it's moving so fast, and having a platform like Mobcast that you're able to look at your HR. And not just for ourselves, back in the office, but the individuals that we have on the ground as well. So, we know when their training requirements are coming up, when they've, actually sat some health and safety test, or whatever the procedure is, for ourselves. But also being able to push out bulletins to individuals, the teams, we think it's a great way of communicating. And yes, you can communicate, with emails, by telephone, the Zoom and what have you. But having that platform on your mobile phone, that you write a note and you send it out to the key people that you want to send it out to, or all your employees. And then when they've opened it, it's been acknowledged. So from a compliance point of view as well, it simplifies the process for us. Simplifying the process is a big part of our culture in Blue Mountain. And the simpler that we have something, the better it'll work. And in the moment of an incident or a crisis, we need it to be simple. And that's all the past experience and the challenges that we've had over the years. So having that Mobcast providing that simplicity, and the demonstration I've had from the team so far, it looked very, very simple. And now that I have the details, I have the login details. So I think over the next coming weeks, then we'll be playing with it and seeing if it works, one, for us, but also when we recommend it to other clients, so that then we can communicate with them all on the same platform. And some of the experiences that we've had, you go into some companies, and because they've expanded, they've gone from one platform, they've created another platform, and then another platform because they want something else. And it slows down the communication. And in some cases, makes it pretty much non-existent, which creates stress, because as soon as we don't get the information or don't get communication, human beings will go off and do what they think is best. So it's so far what I've seen. It's and we've looked at different platforms and we've seen different platforms. So I'm looking forward to playing with it and giving the feedback to the team.
Yeah, I mean, I'm no expert in this area, and I don't have staff to try and get back to work and so on. But a couple of things that I thought were interesting. One is that it comes from a global working perspective, so kind of crossing international boundaries, different kinds of companies. But the other thing, I guess, was the level of engagement from grassroots up, rather than just being a top-down engagement tool. Kind of impressed me. So I'll be really interested to see how you get on with it. I think, as far as I can tell, it's pretty new to Europe and the West. It's pretty well established in the East, Southeast Asia, those, that kind of environment. They've got obviously they've got the background of SARS and MERS and various things that kind of passed us by at the time. So a bit more closer attention to these things than we have at the moment. But I think it's I've got to say that neither of us have got any kind of stake in this company, but we're interested to see whether it's going to be a useful tool that more people in the world should know about.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was good that they could set it up in different languages. So that was interesting in itself. And there's a whole host of different areas, but it can actually be made specific to those clients. And the great thing was, it looked very, very simple. For any of these platforms to work, it needs to be simple. And I think that's the key thing. The simplicity of it and helping you maintain the compliance and within your own company.
So, let's watch this space, and I'll come back and ask you. Now, just to finish off, the reason one of the reasons that I was keen to talk to you about this was because you've got a global footprint, because you've got a range of different kinds of challenges in dealing with this virus and keeping the business going and moving forward. What would be your top 3 tips, say, for people in other companies that have got responsibility for, hopefully they're surviving the thing, but moving forward, what should leaders be paying attention to? What should they be thinking about and planning for and trying to make happen?
People is first. Look after your people, and that's a challenging, challenging point in itself, because people are furloughed, people are being laid off, because companies are finding that actually, we had 100 people doing this job, and during this lockdown and furlough, and we've been on skeleton crew, then actually we don't need the 100 people. We can actually do it with 70 people. And so as a leader, you need to look after your people, because without your people, you don't have a business. So I think maintaining a realistic approach to what is actually happening, and trying to deal with the facts and not all the assumptions that are out there. So I've purposely over the last 2 years not watched the news, you can have the information. Staff come into work, I find out most days what's going on in the world, but concentrating on what I need to concentrate on and deal with the facts, and you try and you're trying to plan for the future, but it changes, like you mentioned earlier on, it changes every day. And I've mentioned it a number of times, keep it simple.
Yeah.
Keep it all very simple and go back to basics. Look for opportunities, work harder, look for opportunities, understand the environment that we're working in. And a very, very good and close friend of mine who runs a dive company in just outside Cardiff. And it was his company that retrieved the statue out of Bristol Docks. Edward, apologies, I forget his surname. And after that, they put a little put a photograph out on LinkedIn saying that we've retrieved the statue today, and they had over 25,000 hits on LinkedIn. And the big thing from that was he really didn't expect it, but it's created so many different business avenues for him. And he's having phone calls from and people getting in touch from many different businesses that he never expected would want a commercial dive team. So keeping it simple, understand what's out there, but also looking at what your products are and where else can could you actually market those, and in a different way, perhaps?
Yeah, so becoming a cutting edge expert in keeping creating safe workplaces, for example, could
looking and creating opportunities, and I think as a leader you need to you delve into all sorts of different books and who's doing what, and so you're looking for that one, that not glimmer of hope, I suppose, but that one little, sometimes it's a word, sometimes it's, oh, I never knew that market was there, and all of a sudden your product is fitting into a different market, so it's challenging times.
Out of what you're saying, Nigel, and I guess the things that I pick out from there are one, fact-based thinking, which is pretty tough when there's so much belief-led information out there rather than fact-based information. That's a tough one. And when you don't really know what the facts are going to be in the future, that suggests that a need for agility, and not just in the company leader, but to employ people that are agile thinkers that would be committed to seeing a problem and finding solutions to it rather than waiting to be told. Would be a strong one. And the other thing that you were saying there is about, there are unexpected opportunities. Maybe just doing the right thing and being seen to be doing the right thing could open up all sorts of new opportunities. Don't know how, don't know when, but let's try and make sure that you're in the right place to.
One foot in front of the other. So in any diversity, you just keep pushing forward. But with thought. You're not aimlessly pushing forward. You keep one foot in front of the other, in the direction. Maintain your core values and who you are, and try not to panic. And one great speaker I had a couple of years ago, and as he was packing up, he just a throwaway comment, and he said, "At the end of the day, what does it all matter?" And you can read into that whichever way you want. And and over the last couple of years, it's been all sorts of what does that actually mean? But if you think of life itself, if we have our health, and if you're fortunate to have a strong family around you, then we'll go through hard times in life, and we'll have our challenges. But as long as you keep one foot in front of the other, keep plodding along, then the light comes at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, great stuff. Let's keep doing that, and ideally send a minesweeper ahead of us.
Good advice. That's going to be used a lot, that one.
You should. I think it's the wrong person gave that advice. Could have been telling me that one.
We learn as we get older, don't we? Yeah, we learn as we get older. Yeah, absolutely. It used to be stacks of smoke straight up the middle.
Nigel, thanks very much for letting me pick your brains on this. It's really informative. So, for anybody who's watching this, Nigel Thomas, CEO of the Blue Mountain Group.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I encourage people just have a look, get in touch, and pretty soon Nigel is going to be the go-to person for advising other companies on how to be safe. If you aren't already.
Thank you very much indeed, Hugh.
Cheers, Nigel.